So, hello guys, welcome back. Today we are going to see about instance states, the five different instance states. But before that, let me clear up something. In the previous video, I had mentioned the steps to creating a web server. That is, you first launch an EC2 instance, then connecting to it via RDP, and then you configure it via server manager to be a web server. After that, I tried accessing it, but if I try to access it as such, you will not be able to access it. In the last video, I was actually unable to access it. So I searched for the problems and found one. So before actually configuring it as a web server, I'll explain what is actually happening when a web server is being accessed by the public. So a web server is like a computer. So some computer is configured and to be accessible via internet, and what it has is some HTML file that is actually describing a page. So each of these HTML files that is there can that points to one singular website. So we general public access the website via HTTPS. For example, if I say Google and if I select here, it says connection is secure. This is because we are actually connecting via HTTPS. So whether I type in www.google.com or I type in HTTPS slash slash www.google.com, it is the same. However, here I am specifically mentioning I am connecting via a secure connection. So in the previous video, the web server that we had configured did not have this secure option. So we'll be using HTTP. So this is a protocol. This is similar to RDP protocol that we were using to connect to the instance. So I had said before, when creating the instance, that a security group is like the firewall that decides what can access what is inside the firewall. Let's say I am some hacker who is using some other type of protocol. Let's say this stands for RDP protocol. So instead of using RDP protocol, I am using some other protocol like SSH or HTTP in this case. You won't be able to pass through the firewall because it is not allowed by this firewall to connect. If I select here, so if I go to EC2 and in the instances, there is details tab, which is what we normally use, and status tab for status checks. And here, if we go to security tabs, we can see a security group mentioned here, and this is the security group. And here we can see only RDP is allowed in the inbound rules. So what is the inbound rules? When someone is trying to access whatever is inside the firewall, that is inbound. When something inside the firewall is trying to access outside like internet, that is outbound rules. By default, outbound rules all traffic is enabled. But for inbound roles, by default, no traffic is enabled. But because we created in Windows instance, RDP is enabled by default. So previously, I was trying to connect using HTTP. So what did I do? I selected this public IPv4 DNS and I went to a different browser and I opened this. So what I'm doing here is I'm connecting via the internet via HTTP protocol, but I have not allowed that HTTP protocol to access whatever is inside. So what will happen? It will simply say not able to connect and yeah, site can't be reached. Because it took too long to respond because the firewall is blocking all our attempts at connection via HTTP. So now if I go here and select edit inbound rules and I add a rule, I say HTTP should be allowed and I say anywhere IPv4. This is because whenever we are trying to access from our computer or internet, or by default we are using IPv4. So anywhere IPv4 should be allowed and save rules. So now what we have done is we are allowing both RDP connection and HTTP connection. So if I go to the site again and refresh it, this time I should be able to reach the connection or reach the website. So we'll see if I am able to reach the website. So here you can see as soon as I entered the public DNS and I allowed HTTP in security group, some website is coming. This is the default website that Microsoft has created whenever Internet Information Service IIS download. So here we can see this is a successful website. In the inet pub www root folder, previously we had seen two files which showed the basic the two files are what describes this website. So instead of those two, if we delete it and put whatever website I want in there and the assets I need. So a website won't just have a HTML file. It may need images, videos, and all that, and other files. So if you put everything there and give the correct references, I can create my own website and that will be shown here. So this is how we can configure an EC2 instance as a web server. So today we are going to see instance states. What is instance state? So we have launched some virtual computer. However, this is not actually free. We are using free tier account. For free tier account, for 12 months, some resources are free. So if you use T2 micro instance type, this is actually free for 12 months for this account. However, after 12 months has passed, for every second or every hour you run this web server or you run this instance, you will be charged. Some amount you will be charged. it will be actually shown if you select launch instance. And T2 Micro, here you can see on demand Windows base pricing is 0.017 USD per hour. So this means you are charged some amount, but because we have free tier, and in free tier we get 750 hours of T2 Micro for free for the first year of opening the AWS account. That is why it is free for us. Okay, so if I go back to instances, we cannot always have this instance in running state because it will cost us. Sometimes you won't be using this instance. Like, let's say some person or some company has a website running and they want to take down the website for some time because maybe they want to update it or there are some issues that are there. So they want to take down the website for some time, let's say 2 or 3 days. In 2 or 3 days, they will be charged 0.017 into 72 hours. So around, let's say point one or $1. I don't exactly know. So that amount they will be charged, but they are not using the website at that time. So how do we actually stop this? That is where the instance state comes in. You can simply select stop instance. What will happen is the instance will be stopped. And after you, so here you can see, after you stop the instance, you are no longer charged usage or data fees for it. However, you will be billed for associated elastic IP address and EBS volumes. So elastic IP address and EBS volumes will cover later. So they have told it clearly. After stopping the instance, like it is not accounted for data usage or whatever, and so it is not charged. So I'll select stop. So now my instance is gone into stopping state. Stopping state is actually the instance actually shutting down. And so in stopping state, you are not charged, but it is actually not yet fully like shut down. You are still, it is still like in the shutting down process. Like when you shut down your computer, it will start closing the background processes and slowly shut down. That is what is happening right now. And it will go to stop state in like 1 minute at most. So it will be there. And here you can currently see some public IPv4 address and some public IPv4 DNS exists, like it is assigned. This is what I use to connect to that website. Now, after I have stopped this instance, what happens is this public IPv4 address and the DNS is now gone. There is nothing associated here. So that means if I again try to access this via a web server or via internet, what will happen is I won't be able to access it. It will again say not able to connect. Like previously when HTTP was not allowed, it will say it is not able to connect because this public IPv4 that I had assigned previously, it is no longer associated with that instance. So that instance cannot be reached any longer, and this is free. So whatever you are trying to access via using this cannot be accessed anymore. You can see here site cannot be reached. So next, after this, there is start instance. So naturally, when you have stopped the instance, you again need to start it. Like I had given the example, after they have done the fixes or whatever update they are doing, after the 2 3 days, they again need to make it a proper running website. So they need to start the instance again. So now, if you see here, the public IPv4 address is back again, and it is different from whatever was given previously. Now it is 13.36.241.79. Previously it was 15.237.214.74. So as you can see, the IPv4 changes when you stop an instance and start it again. So this is about like stopping and starting. And like I said, when you stop, the associated resource like EBS. What is EBS? So you have some hard drive data, right? Like you have like you were able to see in local disk C, I had 29 GB in total. Of that, I had 10 GB free. That 29 GB is actually this storage, which is hard disk drive, which may be either HDD or it can be SSD. We'll discuss that in detail when we talk about EBS. So EBS refers to that hard drive, whatever storage you're having, permanent storage that is linked to instance. So this is actually charged. But because we are using free tier for the 30 GB, first 30 GB of EBS, we are not charged anything. And even if you go more than 30 GB, as long as it is removed or deleted, like pretty soon, like within 1 hour, you are not charged more than like some cents for it. So it will be charged like $0.01 or something like that. Mostly it will be negligible. So it is not a problem to have more than that. But it cannot linger around for very long. It should be terminated as soon as possible. Next is reboot instance. So reboot is like your computer reboot. You shut it down and you turn it on, right? That is what similar to reboot. So I'm selecting reboot. So what happens here is instead of like stopping and starting instance, reboot does not actually shut down that instance. What it does is it just refreshes. It is like a refresh. So it refreshes that instance and whatever maybe changes, any changes you have made, or the status check that is here. If sometimes like it will be 1 out of 2 or 0 out of 2 checks passed, that time that means the internet is not properly connected. That happens very rarely, but it may happen. So at that time, maybe you can reboot your instance and it will again check for status whether the internet connectivity is there or not. And maybe at the time the issue will be resolved. So no problem with that. Next is about hibernating instances. This I will actually teach this after terminating. So we have seen stopping instance, starting instance, rebooting, and now we are going to see terminating instance. So what we are going to do is we are going to delete it. Let's say I have some website like previous example. There is a website and people are accessing it. But after some time, that company, let's say ABC, it goes bankrupt. So they don't need a website anymore. They're not able to pay for that website. So what they will do is they will take down the website. So if they take it down, there's no need for instance anymore. You don't need to needlessly pay for instance. So at that time, they will delete this. So when you delete this instance, whatever changes you have made or whatever, everything in the instance is completely deleted. And when I select terminate, it goes to shutting down state. This is the actual shutting down state. Previously, when stopping it, I had mentioned it shuts down, but it is not actually like totally gone. What is happening here is in the physical server in AWS infrastructure, all the resources like computing resource, RAM, CPU, processors, all that is being taken back. So it will no longer be assigned to this virtual machine, and this virtual machine will simply cease to exist. That is all. So that means once you terminate a instance, you can't restart it back. Like you can't start it again. That is not possible. If you terminate it, that is all it is done. So we'll wait for some time. It is currently in shutting down state. After that, it will go to terminated state. After that, no matter what you do, nothing will happen. Like this instance is gone forever. So as you can see, it is gone terminated, and public IPv4 and DNS and even the private IPv4, everything is gone. So it does not exist, but it will still show up here. But after like 15 or 30 minutes, it will be gone from here too. It will be erased from here too. Now, I wanted to explain about hibernating instance. So for that, you need to enable something special. So I'll just do the usual launch an instance. So I want to give you an example on hibernating. So I'll say hibernate example and same Windows and 2022 base. Instance type is T2 micro. Key pair is AWS Paris key pair. And I have the existing launch wizard one security group. And I have 30 GB of GP2 storage. This is the EBS volume. Okay, now here is the difference. Here, if you select advanced details, you can see some options here like instance auto recovery, shutdown behavior, stop hibernate behavior, all this. So shutdown behavior is actually stop. So that means when we press stop, it is like shutting down, but it is not actually totally gone. It is only shutting down. And if I say terminate, it does whatever it does what terminate does when we actually stop the instance or something. Yeah, here you can see instance behavior when OS level shutdown is performed. So instance can either be terminated or stopped. So if no value is specified, it will be used. That is all. So what we are concerned with right now is the stop hibernate behavior. So what it does is whether it decides whether we can enable like hibernate a instance or not. Here by default it is disabled. But if you come here and select enable, what it does is when hibernating, whatever is stored in the instance memory, which is the RAM memory, it is the temporary memory. Like if you shut it down, whatever is in the RAM memory is gone. You can't like retrieve it actually. So whatever what this hibernate does is whatever is in the RAM memory is stored in the permanent memory. Here the permanent memory is our EBS volume. So whatever is in the RAM memory, which is known as instance memory here or instance store, that is allocated to root volume, which is our EBS. So I have enabled hibernate behavior, but before going to launch the instance, we should do one more thing. Here in storage, we should select advanced and select the volume and allow encryption. Like encrypted should be on and some default value should be given. So why should the encryption be on? Because we are storing our temporary data to our EBS. That data is not actually encrypted by default because it is in our computer. And after we shut down the computer, it will be gone. So it is not encrypted because that is a waste of time. But now we are going to make the data available in our permanent memory, in our EBS. That means whatever data is available, if it is not encrypted, that can be accessed easily. That is why that RAM data should be encrypted. And it should be encrypted, and it will be encrypted only when you turn on this encryption here in storage. So after that is also enabled, we can launch instance. So it won't show any error or anything. And we have launched a new new server, which is called Hibernate example. Now, if I select this Hibernate example and go to instance state, here we can see Hibernate instance has now lit up. It is not grayed out like it was before. So if I hibernate this instance, what happens is whatever data is on the instance store volume, it is committed to our permanent memory. So select hibernate and click on hibernate. Heal to hibernate. Okay, so because I only launched the instance just now, it is only starting up. If I try to hibernate already, because nothing is actually stored in the RAM memory and the OS level operation like starting up booting is not maybe not be completed. So give it a few minutes and you'll be able to hibernate. So before that, I want to show you about the different instance sets, like how it works and all that. So go to Amazon EC2. This is actually Amazon AWS documentation, and in that all the documentation for every single service is available. So here you can see, we go to instances, we can see instance types, no instance, go to instances. So it is not here. So I'll go to instance and directly I'll search instance state. If I search for that, it'll show Amazon EC2 instance state changes. So this is what I have been explaining till now. So first we are launching our instance. When we launch our instance, we were able to see many times before it went to running state, it was in a pending state. It was grayed out, like terminated, but it was in a pending state, like it had a clock symbol. That is the pending state. After that, it went to the running state. In running state, we can select this and either stop the instance, reboot it, hibernate it, or terminate it. That is what is shown here. You can stop or hibernate it, you can terminate it, or you can reboot it. Like I said, reboot is just like a refresh. So it does not actually stop the instance at that moment. It does something similar to refreshing. If you terminate it, it directly shuts down, and then after it reaches the terminated state, and at that state, uh, it cannot be accessed anymore by anyone. So when you stop or hibernate it, it goes to a stopping state, and from the stopping state, it goes to a stopped state. And in the stop state, it is actually stopped. You cannot access it via externally, whether through RDP or HTTP or whatever protocol you want. It cannot be accessed that like that. But all the data that we had and all the like OS and all the things that we had installed, everything will be, it will still be there, and we can start it again, and then it will go to pending state, and then it can go, and then it goes back to running state. So this is about the stopping and stopped, shutting down and terminated. So here we are able to see when in pending state, we can directly terminate it. When it is in running state, we can directly terminate it. When it is in stopping state, we can directly terminate it. When it is in stopped state, we can directly terminate it. So you can launch an instance, and maybe let's say you launched it by mistake. You didn't want to, or you didn't want that instance like that, or something. You maybe changed, uh, like you wanted it in some other network or something like that. When it is in pending state itself, you can terminate it, and you can create a new instance like that. So terminating can be done from any point. At any point of time, you can terminate your instance. So it is currently running, and I'll hibernate this instance. So after hibernate, I reload. So it is now saying stopping. It is not saying hibernating, or it is not saying any other thing. It is saying stopping. So what hibernate does is it commits whatever was in the RAM memory to the permanent memory, and then it does what stop normally does. It goes to stop. So when you restart it, like it goes to stopping, and then it goes to stopped, and then when you start it again, whatever RAM memory was in the EBS, that is loaded back onto the RAM. That is what hibernate actually does. So it is like putting your computer in sleep mode. So if you put it in sleep mode, it is not actually taking much power, and whatever data you had is actually stored. And when you restart the computer again and you wake it from sleep, whatever you had, it is still there. It is not automatically closed. Like let's say you are shutting down your computer and you are opening it again after some time, let's say some half an hour or something. Whatever tabs you had open, it will all be closed. Maybe if you open the browser again, it may ask for a restore, but that is not actually keeping the data. It is simply storing the data somewhere like cookies or something. So it is actually restoring differently. So it is not similar to sleep mode. So hibernating is similar to sleep mode, and shutting down your computer is similar to stopping. So it has gone to stopped state. And now I can again start the instance, and it will be successfully started, and it has gone back to running almost immediately because all the RAM data is actually store and retrieve. So it is almost instantly running again. So this is all about our instance states. So now we can just terminate our instance, and always after uh, using whatever resources that you need, terminating or deleting it permanently, or maybe stopping it so that it does not charge anymore, is the best option, because you don't want to be charged unnecessarily, because you're not using it anymore. You'll still be charged. AWS does not care that you're not using it right now. It is your responsibility to actually stop it properly, to make sure you're not built for that. Yes. So it's shutting down. After some time, it will go to terminated state. So that is all for this video, guys. Thank you. We'll see you in the next video.